up, everybody? This is Musical Major on the Oracles One Way. We're here to talk about everything. We're here to talk about the music, the journey, everything that surrounds the journey. Let's get into it. The Oracles One Way. Let's go. My first standout single. That's a crazy, crazy one. So I believe it was 2023, if I'm not mistaken. You know, actually, what happened is that it's actually a funny story. I was actually writing a book, you know. I had this crazy idea. I was like, nah, I've always had a passion to kind of like write my own book, actually have my own hard copies and stuff. Didn't know what was about to happen. It's called Indoctrinational Slavery. So I actually put it up as a book. I was actually doing the chapters on my own, chapter one, chapter two. It was actually about quotients, quotients, intellectual quotients like your IQ, social quotient, emotional quotient. So I was actually kind of just writing a book, but I was in that state whereby it was actually before the breakthrough of my career. So what actually happened is that I had written actually a couple of chapters, and then I actually kind of left it for some weeks, and then after some time, I had just that light bulb to say, why don't you just create the book into a song, but actually in chapters? So I had that idea. I was like, okay, gotta rewrite the book, make it rhyme, make it artistic. And that's what I did. I went to the studio and that's what I did. Took me some time, but after some time I was done. And then I think a week after that, I actually had another idea to be like, okay, we shooting the TikTok video, because I was actually just inclined on TikTok at the time because I wasn't really familiar with it. I put it up. That was my breakthrough. Literally, I think we did like 1 million views that week for the first time. And then I think that was the birth of my career commercially, in a sense, on social media and every other thing after that. It was Indoctrinational Slavery. That was the first standout single for me. It literally just blew up everything. Couldn't believe it, but it's just been grace after that, yeah. Three favorite tracks. It's actually a funny question because my favorite tracks in my whole portfolio, and not saying that every other ones I don't like, but it's just I think I don't necessarily have a favorite track. I have just tracks that are more closer to me and my experiences, the ones that when I listen to, they take me back to certain moments that I feel like were very, very heartfelt. So I think the first one should be Win, because Win is actually a track that I had wrote back in the days, still coming up, and the situation that was happening there, those were actually one of the most realest moments ever. And I think the second one should be You Don't Miss Me, which is now really, I think it's should be my biggest track yet, you know. You Don't Miss Me has been a very controversial song and a very successful song, but it's actually one of my favorites because it's explaining a season of my life where I was actually transitioning into the person that I am right now. So I think that's also a very important track. And I think the third one for me, I think, because I have a couple of them in my head, but then I think the one that's gonna make the third on the list should be Toxic Femininity, because it's one of the few tracks that I had written, and with the intention that I had with the tracks, it actually reached the amount of understanding, around the society. It actually hit that mark to be like, every time when I look at the commentary and I look at the feedback, I feel like it got there. It got where it needed to get to. So those I think those tracks are really heartfelt for me, because even when I listen to them, they're actually very pivotal to my journey, to my personal experiences and everything. So I think Toxic Femininity, Indoctrinational, Slavery, and also You Don't Miss Me, these are very close to me, you know. These tracks are very close to me. So I think, yeah, I think for now they can make the list until we make every other track going forward. My influences, my influence actually comes from a lot of things, but I think if we could just put it down to just artists that I mostly listen to that I feel like influence me a lot, the first person should be Joyner Lucas, because as far as what I do, I listen to Joyner a lot, and I feel like he's a very raw talent, and he gives the story very raw. Some people say it's too explicit, but I feel like that's literally just hip hop. So he gives it the way that it is, and that's an element that I've been using as well in my artistry. So I think the first one should be Joyner Lucas. The second one is J. Cole. Has to be J. Cole. I think what he did in his career and his journey, and how he was intentional about who he wants to be in the industry, I think that was very profound, because he's one of the most authentic, genuine, you know, I'm all about authenticity and being genuine in the music, telling real stories that actually uplift people. And I think also the third person that I can put in there should be Lil Wayne, because Lil Wayne actually started being my influence. I think he's pretty much one of the first guys to actually kind of put me into hip hop in that sense. Because for Lil Wayne, what I would say is this: I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, I believe Lil Wayne is literally one of the greatest writers to ever live, one of the greatest lyricists. How, like the penmanship, the calligraphy inside, how you word up and how you actually build the song. Some people call it punchlines, just the penmanship in absolution. I think Lil Wayne should be one of those guys who actually set a mark that was set up as like an inspiration for some of us who are younger actually coming up now, you know. So I think those guys really shaped the way that I look at how I write and how I approach the music and my delivery. Reason why a lot of people today, they say my penmanship is very clear and very audible. I think it's because I was listening to most of those guys to actually hear that, okay, so this is how we do it, and I can pick this and pick that and also add something of my own as well. But I think, yeah, that was the stepping stone for sure. My favorite verse. Jesus Christ, I have so much. I think currently my favorite verse is from a song that I actually just dropped literally on Saturday, a couple of days ago. I don't even remember the date, but it's from my new EP that I'm actually building with the fans. It's called the Book of Enoch, and I'm actually doing it in chapters, but it has actually subtitles to the chapters. So it's chapter one. My favorite line has to be, "You do not have to like me to respect me." And that was a profound thing for me to actually be enlightened about, you know, in my whole introspection, that a lot of people, I think there's a misconception of respect and like I have this thing whereby I feel like a lot of people only give respect to people that they like. And I think it's not fair in that sense, because to like a person, I believe that's a personal thing, but to respect the person, that's kind of like a social requirement, so that we can all coexist and correlate, to a certain level of comfort. So that's why I said you don't have to really like me to respect me. You could just respect me as a human being and respect my work and what I do without having to like me. So I think that's something that really, hit deep. So I think that for now currently should be my favorite verse. You do not have to like me to respect me. Oh, yeah, that one is a tough one. But to be honest, I like to be very direct and blunt in a way that makes some people uncomfortable. But even in my music, that's literally what I do. I just tell it exactly how it is. The industry is cutthroat. It is definitely not how I thought it was. And I know that it's definitely not how most people think it is. A lot of people believe that it's almost like a society of people that kind of like maybe at some point maybe live close to each other or something, but it's nothing like that. I don't even think that there's such thing as an industry because it's just it's just like there are circles that are there, but those circles are usually not set up to help people. I don't think people really understand how much this is just business. It's just value exchange. You know, if you could put something on the table of value that you can exchange for money, for opportunity, that's literally the industry. There's nothing else there. And that's literally also for me personally, it's been one of the most biggest disappointments for me because even when I was coming in, I was expecting like a big hug, be like, yo, man, you finally here. And then I found out that nobody really is like that. It's just one of those things, just like a cutthroat entertainment business. And that was the biggest eye opener for me to be like, most of the time it's everyone for himself. You got to fend for yourself, unless if, you know, you want to get into these things of these companies sometimes. But for us, the independent artists, it's literally that cutthroat. And I think that's another thing that I have so much passion to teach every other upcoming artist now to be like, bro, the whole thing about independence is not as beautiful, but it's possible. There's a beauty, you know, there's a side of it where it's beautiful and there's a side of it where you're just gonna be disappointed. But if you one of those people that persist to these things, you know, you'll get to some point where you are a bit comfortable and you can, you know. But that was the biggest eye opening thing for me. To be like, oh, we're not a family. Okay, it's you, it's me, and we just gotta. I don't know. I don't know. We just gotta see what the hell we have to do. So I think that is it. That yeah, that is it for me. That's the biggest one. Yo, I gotta think about this one for a minute because I listen to so much hip hop. I think I think oh, there's so many great verses in the world. Let me just pick the closest one that comes to my mind. I'm thinking um, should be should be J. Cole. I think I've heard some pretty classic, timeless verses from J. Cole. You know, definitely from the 2014 Forest Hill Drive, that album. I don't know if I don't know if it could be A Tale of Two Cities or is it 28th January? I'm not sure, but I think it should be A Tale of Two Cities. You know, I'm not sure if I can actually recall the verse in full, but just those two verses there, because that album on its own, I think I resonated with A Tale from like too much more than the other ones because he taught me something that I was going through and he went through the same thing. And I actually admired how he looked at things at the time. So every single time when I play that song and I rap that verse, I had this weird thing when the album actually came out, whereby, you know, I have a vivid imagination. So whenever I listen to music, good music, especially when I look at the live sessions and the stadiums and in the arenas and everything, there's some songs when I look at them and I'm like, I wish that was me. I wish I was the one making that level of impact. So I think the specific one should be from the album 2014 Forest Hill Drive. There was a concert that J. Cole did when he was doing his homecoming, you know, in Fayetteville. That concert for me was a game changer. And everything that he did in that concert, I wish that whole concert, I wish that was me. I think it also built the dream as well to be like, you could actually come back to where you grow up and actually teach and show them that this is possible and this is how I look at things. That whole concert is just so I think A Tale of Two Cities should be the one for me. Those two verses right there. I was those ones. I wish I had written those ones. Definitely. I was hurtful. I think, if we're being honest, I think every man and women, there's a time, whether you are a business owner, you're an artist, you know, usually, as long as most of the time you're working out of the system, the traditional educational system, if you're just working in your own system, I think there comes a time when you say, I need to change my life. I need to do everything that I was procrastinating. I need to take a decision to go and get it. Things need to change. You get to that moment. I think that was it for me. When I had dropped those 20 tracks, I was still in the hood. Nothing had changed. Poverty, struggle, the worst of the worst circumstances that you could possibly imagine. I was there, rock bottom. So I took a decision that day before I started writing in between everything. I took a decision. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hold back anymore. I'm going to give this music thing 100% effort. I'm going to do every sacrifice that needs to be done, you know? So that's exactly what happened. I literally, from that moment, I think I wrote 20 tracks every day, every hour. I was literally in the studio. That was it. And that's the project that I would say changed my life as well. So I think in between everything is that pivotal moment for me, because it also includes indoctrination and toxic femininity and all the other ones that I included there. So that was that moment. Yeah, that was crazy actually. I think initially I didn't know. I didn't know because it happened sporadically in a sense. I didn't know that uh, most of the people that would be on the project, it was not intentional because I had just um, I was new in the scene, but I was already meeting a couple of people. I was that new kid on the block in that sense to be like, oh, he's nice with it. Let's pick his brain. Let's see how he thinks. So we kind of connected very well with most of the people that I met, you know. So the track actually, Chairman, there was a company that I used to work with, I think after my breakthrough a bit, I used to work with the company in the north, you know, and then there was a time I was just messing around. I had written that track, I had recorded it, and I was like, you know what? Let's just shoot it. Let's just see what happens. I didn't even put it up. I didn't market it that much because it was not really like a actual track. It was just one of those. And when a couple of artists saw it on my status, on my WhatsApp status, a lot of people started hitting me up like, "Yo, man, this is that track, bro. You gotta come through to the studio." We went to the studio, they heard it, and then I started chipping it around and be like, "Yo, what are you thinking?" Crazy, everybody actually, when they heard it for the first time, they literally jumped in, and I was like, "What?" I think the first one was Datestana. He jumped on it. We even shot a video same time, blew up. After that, I think it was Robot Boy. And then I just had Tatistana and Robot Boy at that time. And then I actually signed with SOLDistro, Slikour Live. After I signed, because Slikour was pretty close to Questa. And then we came up with that idea that, you know what, who do you hear on the last verse? And I was like, I hear Questa on this last verse. Definitely the guy we gotta get. And actually, he called him up. And when he heard the track as well, he was like, what? And it was just one of those things. And we just killed it. It's a beautiful track. Even today, I can't believe it happened. I appreciate it. I'm humbled. You know, yeah, I think it was one of those coincidental moments. It was just grace. I think it was just beautiful, yeah. So I grew up in church. I'm a pastor's kid, you know. You know the cliche. I'm a pastor's kid. Uh, I grew up in church. Literally, when I came out, my father was a pastor. Mother's a pastor. We have to go to church every Sunday. That's a norm. So I kind of grew up in that. So I have a very strong religious foundation. I believe in the spirit in ways that even I can explain sometimes, because I believe I'm a very spiritual person. Even the music that I do, literally the foundation of it is literally spirituality because I'm more of a teacher. So every other sermon that I had in church, because I probably like literally consistently went to church for the past what was it, 20 years, 15 years, I'm not sure, but it's maybe 2 decades, quite a long time. So I have a very, very, very strong spiritual foundation, you know. Literally, this is what I'm doing now. Even in my tracks, if you can listen with more of a deeper ear, you'd hear that I'm teaching the Lord's word in a sense. Although we're doing it in hip hop and we might be spicing it up there and there, but literally the intention is to just save, to enlighten people, in that sense, in everything that we do. So yeah. The Book of Enoch. Crazy, crazy idea I came up with a couple of weeks ago. So obviously because I'm more of a freshman in the scene, social media in that sense, so people are still kind of getting used to me and embracing me as an artist and in continentally and internationally. So I've decided to be very intentional with putting myself in a position where it is very obvious that I am here to teach, you know, because with the previous work that I've been doing, I think people have been picking it up that this guy is literally here to teach. He's more like a life coach in a sense. But right now, I'm actually being very direct and intentional about it to be like, I am here to teach, and the Book of Enoch is going to do just that. So, how I came up with the title is that the title was pretty fascinating for me because when I was researching about the Book of Enoch, the actual Book of Enoch, I realized that, okay, it's an ancient book, you know, in those centuries in the past, maybe holding ancient knowledge in that sense. So I had this funny idea to be like, okay, I believe some of my knowledge, I think it's one of those ancient wisdom as well, even though I receive it spiritually. So I kind of wanted to make it look like this one of those sacred information that if a person can pay very close attention to, they would be enlightened in ways that they didn't think they would be enlightened, you know. So I chose that title because I think it holds such a it holds a strong conviction to people who are intellectuals, people who want to know more about humanity, about character, about just how human beings came about and the current state of the Homo sapien mind right now and how we actually kind of administer all of those things, our spiritual side, our mental side, our social side and everything. And because that's my department, I was like, this. I think that's a very good title to go with. So the Book of Enoch is actually one of those projects whereby it's almost like a journey of education. So a lot of people think it's an EP that I might be dropping, but the Book of Enoch is literally a series of chapters that I'm gonna be dropping non-stop. I did the first chapter, I'm dropping the second chapter today. Next week it's the next chapter. We're gonna be doing chapters probably for the next 2 years, maybe. Every week, maybe every 2 weeks. Whenever I get a chance, I'll be dropping a chapter. It's literally like I want to build a community of people that follow the book, that follow my word, you know, to a point where I can tell that, okay, fine, maybe if we can at least get to 50 chapters, then even the people that didn't get a chance to listen to it, they would go to the first chapter, knowing that by the time they probably maybe get to chapter 20, they'll probably be like, okay, fine, at least I can pick this knowledge from there, I can pick this from there, I can pick this from there. So it's literally like a book that I'm just building with my fans nonstop. You know, I might turn it into an EP maybe in tens, chapter 1 to 10, maybe that might be an EP, 10 to 20, but literally the intention of it is just it's an educational journey that we are stepping into that's going to be going and going and going. So that's the Book of Enoch. That's what we're doing now currently. So, with the little knowledge that I have about the Book of Enoch, is that the Book of Enoch is a book that was written by a couple of, um, I don't know if I should say philosophers or just in the knowledge that I've been able to receive, is that they say that there's some books in the Bible that didn't make it to the Bible, There's some stories that were left out there and there. As I said, it's like ancient information. So there's actually a book, the Book of Enoch straight, that's talking about the Watchers, coming down uh, to 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 the human beings that were existing at that time. I think it's before Christ, you know, that came on earth to give sacred knowledge, you know, and started copulating with the human beings, and then they would give birth to giants. It's all, I think it's all really just about giving knowledge to human beings, sacred knowledge. And that's literally like the one point that fascinated me that much, to be like, okay, so the Watchers came down to give the Homo sapiens at the time knowledge, you know. So the whole part about wisdom, sacred wisdom, was very fascinating for me. But there is a Book of Enoch. There's a lot of researchers that are still researching more books that were supposed to make it to the Bible. But I think the most popular one is the Book of Enoch. I just retracted just the title and just that part about wisdom so that I can build my Book of Enoch now, you know. I thought that was a pretty fascinating thing. And people are loving it already, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yeah, it's a good thing for sure. All I want to say is this. I think my journey has been beautiful. I appreciate every single person that has been in support of the brand, because literally for us independent artists, there's literally like, it's just me and the fans, there's literally no system in between. So they have literally kept me afloat, every blessing, everything that comes with it. I'm very humbled, and the journey's still long, but already we've created such a beautiful lifeline for ourselves. For me, the person who has to deliver the message and how they receive it is just a beautiful thing. Sometimes I just sit by myself and I just go through the thousands and thousands of comments. The feedback is the one that feeds the work to continue. you know I know that a lot of people, sometimes I see people complaining that, oh, maybe they might not be watching the comments or something. I watch every single comment, because that's literally my juice to keep going, because I can tell that it's making an impact and it's making a change. So the only thing that I will say, that I will always say, is a big, big thanks and appreciation to the fans, because that's literally, they are the whole lifeline right there. So I think my deepest appreciations to them, you know, and look forward to a lot, because a lot is coming. We're busy this side.
Yeah.
Trust me. At Musical Major, literally on every single platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, at Musical Major. You know, I'm thinking I should have spread my name far enough to be everywhere by now. So I'm thinking every platform that's your favorite, you'll probably find me there. You'll find the content, you'll find what we are doing, you'll get the movement, you'll get what we're trying to achieve here. But yeah, at Musical Major, literally on every platform. I think, yeah, we should be good like that.
Oh, thank you so much, man. That's it.
Big blessings, man.
Yeah.
Big blessings. Big blessings. Thank you to be here, man.